Spiritual journeys are rarely easy, and while we all hope for love and light, the process is usually much darker. So this is Love and Lightning. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Love and Lightning podcast. We're here to share our spiritual journeys and keep it real with all of the things that make a spiritual journey special to each of us. I am one of your co-hosts, Dr.LA Campbell, and with me is Maestra Paula. And today's episode is about us, our spiritual journeys, and who we are.
Thank you for that introduction, Dr. LA. I am Paula Leeper. I'm going to give you a traditional introduction. I'm the great-granddaughter of Permelia J. Phillips, the great-granddaughter of Edna J. McAllister, the granddaughter of Lillian and Aaron Graves, and Ruby and Elton Hammett. I'm the first in many generations to use the words in this introduction without persecution. I'm known as a witch, a maestra, a massage practitioner, a ceremonialist, an energy mover, and some people call me a medicine woman. I've been initiated into the Mexica tradition in 2005. I carried the medicine of my ancestor, Maestra Cici Cuauhtli and our Abuelita Casimira Rocha y Sanchez. I acknowledge that I am of European descent carrying this medicine and walking this path. I recognize my privilege in having teachers that were taught that the medicine belongs to everyone. I carry a gift from Creator, and the vision that I was given is my life's mission. This medicine carries me with the wind, the fire, the water, and the earth. I walk and speak and move with my heart. I've been touched by the Great Spirit, and I dream with the Virgen de Guadalupe. I was given the name La Huerta Curandera many, many years ago, and I honor my chosen family for that, and I carry it with a lot of humbleness in my heart. I'm super excited to be here and co-host with you, Dr. LA, and talk about some of the experiences that we've had along our journey.
Thanks for sharing. It's powerful to be able to talk about traditions, and not everybody gets to walk a path like that, and it's super special. And I'm so glad that you're here and can share, especially the perspective of the earth-based traditions that both you and I come from. Although my spiritual practice has moved to a combination of some other more cosmic-oriented things. So in terms of my walk, I have more of a story of being born a child who existed somewhere between this world and the next. Very early on, I was different. I knew I was different. I came into this lifetime with memories of other places and other lives. And I have lived a life that has been a path that is different than everyone else. And it hasn't been an easy path by any means, but I wouldn't change it for the world because it's made me who I am. I have practiced in some of the earth-based rituals. I have also worked with angels and other ascended masters and guides from not just this world, but others. I am an experiencer with star beings. I have spent a lifetime studying the traditions of different faiths, different practices, different beliefs, different religions, different spiritual ideas, with the express purpose of being able to be more compassionate and more transparent with others, because I believe that we really are all one, and our energies are so connected, more than we've ever been led to understand. And in order for us to be able to embrace that, we have to be willing to acknowledge that and to learn how to use that power of energy of thought, of manifesting, of understanding and compassion so much better. And that's really the mission I was put here to do, is to lead the way for that. And I've also served as a spiritual teacher and a tarot teacher. I'm a sound healer, a Reiki practitioner. And in the real world, if you want to call it that, I have a doctoral degree in physical therapy. I have served as a clinical specialist in neurodevelopmental issues. I am a multiple sclerosis certified specialist. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. I have worked and apprenticed with an herbalist, and I am a meditation teacher, because I believe all of those components of heart, mind, emotion, body, and spirit are connected. And the best way to build a better person and a better me is to work with all of those elements. So in some ways, we're very much alike. And in some ways, we do it a little differently. So I hope that I'll bring the cosmic perspective to some of this and some of the odd and unusual transitions that I have been through in this existence and in others. And I look forward to us really delving into some of these topics and being truthful and transparent about it, being honest about it, because it really isn't always about love and light as much as we would like it to be. My go around's been a little more difficult than that. So I'm assuming most everyone else's has too. So we're so glad that everyone is tuning in. And thank you so much for joining us as we delve into who we are and where we've been and where we're going, and take you along the ride with us. So this next segment, we just want to talk a little bit about our spiritual practices or our spiritual journey. And so I'll invite Maestra Paula to really talk about what her journey has been like, and the beautiful and maybe the not so beautiful parts of it.
There are some beautiful parts to my journey. There are some pretty ugly parts. Have struggled with mental health my entire life. Probably became in my awareness about 3 years old. I feel like that's when I landed here, maybe when my spirit joined me. I am the oldest of 3 daughters. My parents are both still living. They're still here with us. They're in their 70s. I only realized maybe last year that I was born to teenage parents. And that did change my perspective. Didn't change my experience. I was born into poverty, born into, children. They had no idea how to raise kids, and there's 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
They did their best, and they did better than their parents. And I'm very grateful for that. As I moved along through, and we're going to have more episodes about spiritual gifts and what they look like to children. They look kind of scary. But maintaining a balance didn't come to me until I met my mentor and my teacher, Maestra Cece, and I was 38 years old before I realized that getting kicked out of churches and getting kicked out of all the places where I asked questions about spirituality and God and deities and all of these things, being denied that I had spiritual gifts. When I found this earth-based medicine, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the truth. The sun and the moon and the stars and the cosmic gourd, those all bring balance. And that's what I look forward to every day, is to walk this medicine wheel, knowing the teachings that I have been studying for only 20 years, but knowing it was always in my DNA the whole time. My ancestors come from a different place than this land. I live on the Dene and Apache lands here in Arizona. But my ancestors, and I only call in well ancestors, I don't call in the ones that are needing healing unless we're doing healing work, but they're from Ireland and Scotland and Norway and Spain. My grandchildren are a rainbow of family. They come from all different kinds of places. So I say all of that to say, finding my spirituality, finding a place to be, I landed on the earth. And that's why I do earth-based medicine. That's why I follow the medicine wheel, so that I can make my decisions according to what is the sun doing? Is it rising? Is it setting? Is it shining? Is it cloudy? Because I'm all of those things too. So as we, Dr.LA, as we get to know each other too, because we haven't known each other for a very long time, which is going to be so exciting to get to know each other through this podcast, and to be able to share some of those good and not so good experiences, but knowing that it brought tools to everything. It brought tools for healing. It brought tools for compassion, brought tools for understanding. So being denied all of those things for so many years brought me to this exceptional place of gratitude, to be here right now and healing my lineage, helping my grandchildren to not have to experience some of the things that I did. Even though we all live in this world where there's so much suffering, there's also so much good. And so I'm hoping that we can find some of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because in some ways, our backgrounds are similar. I come from Creek and Cherokee heritage, as well as Scots and Irish heritage as well. So we share that in common. And I grew up in different, more of a, I guess it would be middle class. My dad is an educator and has always, the most beautiful thing, I'm a Southerner, in case you can't tell that by my accent, but the most beautiful gift I was ever given was my father, a white man, a white Southern man, treating me as an equal from the day I was born. And so I found myself much faster because of that. And I'm so grateful for that, because it allowed me to grow and adapt in ways that I could use my imagination, and that I could daydream, as well as be an academically accomplished person. That helped give me a lot of balance, because I never had, when I was young especially, I never really had to worry about I never had to play a role. And I find so many daughters, and I'm going to be very clear up front. I very much adore men. I have 3 younger brothers and a father living. So I've been surrounded by men. And on my mother's side of the family, there's only 1 female born every generation. And that's happened for the last 5 generations. And so I adore men and spend a lot of time with men. But I think what's become more pronounced to me, because I spent so much of my younger life in warrior energy, because it came to me easily to do that, because I think I was empowered. But I lost out on some of the feminine side of it, because what I learned in the feminine perspective was more based on a lot of those self-esteem issues that many women have, or that need for acceptance, or things like that. And I didn't start to experience that until I got to be much older, as a teenager. That's when that started to arrive in my life. And that's what started making it difficult, is that before that, I never had to play a role. I could just be me. And so I'm very grateful that I understood that this idea that there is gender equality, that it wasn't a thing. And in fact, to be honest, I see, as we see more and more of that coming to the forefront in the world, the fact that so many women have had to fight for a voice, that have had to fight to be heard, that have had to fight to be recognized as important, as I'm trying to think of the right word, being recognized that their existence is important to this earth turning, because it so much is. You know, the matrilineal stuff, and you know this from your spiritual practice, but the matrilineal stuff, even before 2,500 years ago or 3,000 years ago, when this patriarchal belief system came into view or came into use with the Roman Empire, the matrilineal lines were the most powerful before that. It was the goddesses who provided balance and energy, because it was nurturing, but it was understanding cause and effect, and understanding that we can't make rash decisions, because this will lead us to being short-sighted about certain things. And so I'm very fortunate that I started out in life having that be an okay thing for me to do, because it taught me, in terms of intellect and academic study and things like that, it taught me that there were no boundaries for me. And that is empowering. And I have, the rest of my life, I've had to watch other women struggle for that same shot. And that's really touched my soul in a lot of ways, because I want to know where that comes from. Why does fear pervade our lives? Why are we afraid that if someone else is empowered, that it's going to be derogatory or degrading to us? Why are we afraid if someone has what we have? Why is that so frightening as humans? So I've been trying to figure that out for more decades than I care to admit, but it seems to be this idea that goes on and on and on, again and again and again, that it's constantly about fear and transcending fear. And when I realized I had fear, I was much older. I was probably in my undergraduate years. And that's when I started to realize that I had fear. I started picking fear up. And that's where the darkness in this journey came. The lightning came for me, was through all of that. So, and I don't think I'm unusual in that. I think it happens to a lot of people, but I now, in retrospect, as hard as it's been, I'm so grateful for the beginning, that it wasn't like that, because it allowed me to be me and to realize that, yeah, I was different. I was born different. I knew within my soul, I knew I was different. I'm always going to be different. I'm different in my family. I don't even match any of them. I'm the weird kid, right? But it was okay, because I was just like everyone else. And somewhere along the way, I had to learn from society, or it was forced upon me, this notion that maybe I'm not like everyone else. And so it's been an odd navigation, for that kind of thing. And it does impact spirituality, because that's when you start questioning, like you said, getting in trouble, being called down in mainstream churches or being shunned because you're a little girl who's smarter than the old men, or you're a little girl who's allowed to be an independent being, who is allowed to be self-possessed and self-directing, when they're completely against it. And then you get the shunning and the ridicule and the finger pointing, the blaming, the shaming. And unfortunately, that ended up impacting my mother very hardly. Very hardly, that's not a good word. It ended up impacting my mother in a very hard way. And that's when I think, just because she needed to be accepted, because she didn't have that same opportunity that I did, she needed to be more accepted. And so then she began to lob the blaming and shaming on me as well. So I spent a lot of time as a teenager and a young adult being shamed. And that is the thing, I think, that's the heart killer, is being shamed. And I have such heartfelt compassion for people when they first can say those words. I mean, it took me working with a behavioral health, mental health provider going, you know, read this and understand, oh my goodness, I'm being shamed,
Yeah.
for you to go and right. And you don't, I mean, it doesn't matter how intellectual you are. It doesn't matter how tapped in you are or anything else. It's when you have that epiphany and you're like, oh, wow. Where did that come from? Where do I go now? Because then I adopted the shaming of myself too. Every time, how can I minimize myself because people are intimidated. If the number of times I've heard from people, well, you're intimidating. Well, you're intimidating. And it took me a long time to realize that that's not my problem. If someone's intimidated, I'm just me. We're allowed to be who we are. I'm not trying to intimidate anyone. I am not trying to minimalize or marginalize anyone. I'm not trying to condescend. I'm just me. Why do I always have to be? Why is it my responsibility that someone is intimidated? And so I've had lots of those kinds of questions that I had to answer along the spiritual path. And, maybe sometimes, you can look at that and go, oh, well, that's not really a spiritual thing. But for me, it always was, because I knew from that moment of birth when I was cognizant, and that was pretty soon after. I actually have pre-birth memories as well. I knew that I was I was a soul being. I knew that. And I understood that the soul is the energy body that we have is really what it's all about, not this muscle suit that we walk around in on planet Earth. But all of that really did compound what it means for me to be able to find my own light. And so I learned to ridicule myself too, and minimize myself and believe what other people said. And I'm just coming out of that over the past couple of years. I'm just coming out of that, where I realize, gosh darn it, I'm a good person and people like me.
I think that's a really good point about just coming out of it, that it's not too late for us to finally say, I love you. And
Exactly.
look in the mirror and say, wow, I've been berating you. I've been talking down to you. I wouldn't speak to my best friend this way.
Mm-hmm.
But yet society has taught us it's selfish to love yourself. It's
It is.
selfish to take care of yourself. And so all of these things that we're going to be talking about in this podcast are things that are really, really important for us to maintain that relationship with ourselves. It completely goes against what we've been taught and what society teaches us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not selfish for loving myself. I'm not selfish for waking up in the morning and checking in with Creator. Like, how are we doing? What's going on today?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? How's my mind? How's my heart today? What's going on in my body? I was taught to check in, right? Check in every day and see how your mind is doing. How's your heart doing? It's been many years since to back up a little bit, the thoughts and the ideology of suicide have been in the forefront of my brain since I was about 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last time that I experienced that, there was this big shift, and it was self-love. It was actually recognizing that I am worth loving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worth it. Nobody said to me, Paula, you're unlovable. But I was always questioned when I asked questions.
Yep.
Why are you questioning me? Why are you asking questions? I wasn't allowed to ask questions. So I learned to go inside and ask the questions. And being raised in the Baptist church there and the Pentecostal church, there are so many things that happen that were so beautiful and so spiritual, but no one could answer me.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it upon myself to make a relationship with Creator and with my ancestors so that I can get the answers directly, a direct revelation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I learned to start doing that, the thought of wanting to leave the planet and not be here anymore, it's just gone.
Yeah.
It's just completely gone. And that is self-love. That is the things that I had to go through to get here. The very last time, and I remember it, I'll never forget the day, I took my shawl and I covered my head and I said, I am not moving from here until I have a connection to myself, until I recognize that I am a divine being. And it was hard. I sat there for about 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
crying, grieving, grieving all of the things in my life that I thought that I should have and never got. But had I not had those experiences as a child, as a young person, as a teenager, I wouldn't have the tools that I have now.
That's
I have
the, yeah.
I have so many beautiful tools to manage not only my life, but to be a guide for others.
Mhm.
Being a massage practitioner is just, it's what the world understands, massage. They understand that word, right?
Mhm.
But it's really touch that I'm
It is
here to
touch.
do.
Absolutely, it is touch. Yeah.
And at some point, I'll tell you the whole vision that I was given of why I'm here on the planet. But really, it is about that self-love, and you're allowed to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We are absolutely allowed to love ourselves, put ourselves first. If we are not taking care of ourselves, how can we possibly take care of anyone to any degree that's going to matter?
Right.
Because we're going to be offended, we're going to be defensive. No, it's about compassion for
Mhm.
yourself first. First and foremost, I need to feed me, and then I'm going to feed you.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
going to put on my own oxygen mask first, and then put yours on. Right?
I was literally just thinking that analogy because it's such,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds so ridiculous, but it's something everybody knows. But that's true.
Yeah.
If you can't oxygenate your own brain first,
Yeah.
how are you even going to know how to oxygenate somebody else's, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it's so important to understand and to know that it's okay to feed what you need in the heart. And
Mhm.
sometimes people can't always, I think, I spend a lot of time trying to find that in other people. I always knew the divine was with me. The great spirit is always with you, right? And I knew that. But when others taught me to question myself, that's when I started looking for it elsewhere. And I'm like you, I've always been very introspective and I think we tend to be when we're a little on the tapped in side. We tend to be
Yeah.
pretty introspective because that's where we get messages. We either get it into the
Yeah.
mind, the body, the etheric body, the auric field, whatever. And I never questioned that. But then I didn't realize that in the real world, in the 3D world, that I started questioning myself and wondering why. And it's so powerful to realize that feeding yourself, nurturing yourself is something that you do best. I'm forever telling patients and clients of mine is that remember, you're always going to understand your body and your feelings best. All we can do is help you to manage, come up with strategies, clinical strategies, or treatment strategies to help manage your issues, help you manage your issues. But ultimately, I don't know what it feels like to be in your body. I only know what it feels like to be in mine and in my spirit body too. And a lot of our societal norms really exclude that. It's about doing what you're told, being a go along with what the norm is, the norm. I hate the word normal. There is no normal. There's typical, but there's not normal. And so we've really trained ourselves very well. The whole Pavlovian experience, Pavlov's dogs, right? We've really trained ourselves very well as people to go along with the crowd or the expectations or the others. It's a part of people pleasing. And a lot of us are people pleasing because we're hoping that if we please, then that means someone will love us in return. But the reality is you got to love yourself first. And that's the hardest lesson to learn because you have to get really vulnerable and you have to get really, I use the word bereft because that's where I was. The crumpled mess, just wailing in a crumple heap on the floor, wailing, trying to understand.
Yeah.
And then being told from the spiritual beings that accompany you every day is you are beloved by the divine. You are of the divine. You need to see it. See it, open your eyes. And it's so hard because we train ourselves to see what's expected, not what is.
Right.
And that's a hard thing I think more people than ever now are starting to feel it. They just don't understand what that means. And I hope that that's why we're here to help. That's my greatest hope, is that people will resonate with what we've been through and realize that, yeah, I'm okay too. I can do this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all good.
I think something too, Dr.LA, is important for me is that we acknowledge that community is so important for us in our healing.
Yes, absolutely.
That we don't have to do it alone.
Mm-mm.
We can reach out to teachers and what we might call healers in the community, or maybe a massage practitioner, or someone that just can listen and can hear us and see our heart, right? Even if it's just a stranger that you're sitting on a bench with. But reaching out and asking for something, asking for help, asking for assistance. Something that we use in our home is, and I do this with my grandchildren, I don't ask them if they need help. I'm like, would you like a partner for that?
That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, teaching my granddaughter how to open the trash can, which is much bigger than she is. I didn't say, do you want help? I'm like, let me show you how it opens. This is where you put your hand. And when she goes to it the second time, she looks at me. I said, would you like a partner? She's like, yeah. Yeah.
I love
She's
that.
like 20 months old. She's
Yeah.
just, has a
Just a
few
tiny
words.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't need to do everything for her.
Right.
But having support and making sure that we are available to talk about the hard things, to be an example that we've been through it. We've been through it and we moved through it. And talking about some of those tools. So I want to just share one of the tools. I kind of talked about it a little bit, but one of the tools that I exercise every day, sort of like a ritual, is I rise in the morning and I greet the sun first. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not making coffee. I'm going to greet the sun. And I'm going to allow the light to enter in my body and my eyes. And I'm just going to say, good morning, Creator. And then I'm going to start checking in with my energy bodies. I'm going to start checking in with my mind, my heart, and I'm going to ask how I am today. And I'm going to be open to receive that light. At the end of the day, no matter what has happened, it all ends. The sun goes down. So just releasing that day, good, bad, or indifferent, and knowing that tomorrow is going to start over. That has been one of the biggest blessings to me, to have a consistent practice of greeting the sun, Tata Donantu, right? That's grandfather's son, and allowing that light to enter my body and saying, I would like to be revived. I'm alive. I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be of service. Let me feed myself and let me feed my community. That's where I'm at. And that's something that I wanted to share in the very first part of this, is that that's just super important, that we know that we have community out here.
Absolutely. I know. I think just harping on the going on the ritual process, I think for me, I tend to work actually with Grandmother Moon. And so at the end of every day, I speak my gratitude to Grandmother Moon. And I speak gratitude not only for her, but for grandfather son, and for the Earth Mother who nourishes us all. Because the Earth Mother needs to hear that. Sometimes we don't talk to her enough. And I'm always grateful for even the bad things that seem bad, the hard lessons, because I know that I'm going to come out on the other side, or I have come out on the other side with enlightenment. And it's important. So being in gratitude, saying the gratitude every day, even if it's a horrible morning or a horrible afternoon, and the only thing you can think of is, I am grateful that I am going home and can take a nap. Because you know what? You found one thing that was beautiful about today, one thing that was glorious and gifted to you. And then the next day you'll find 2 things, and then you'll find 3 things. Just being grateful. And then also I meditate. Meditation is my type A personality's salvation because it allows me to connect in a quiet way. And we'll talk about that more down the road. Well, I've really enjoyed this sort of our inaugural podcast here, to be able to talk about these beautiful things. And I know we're going to delve into a lot of topics along the way that probably things that some people have heard of and other people talk about, but there's probably going to be some things we delve into that nobody really brings up. And I'm looking forward to that too. I'm just hoping that everybody feels welcome and valued and understand that we're in this because we're here to help the people of this earth find themselves, find the beauty within themselves, and realize how wonderful and how divine we all are, how perfect we are in so many ways, and not just the nasty messaging that we hear from others or that we say in our own heads. So I'm so looking forward to where we go from here. Can't wait.
So I think that our next episode is going to be about our experiences with the dark night of the soul.
The dark night of the soul. Oh boy.
Yeah. I'm sure we
Yeah.
could pick a few instances, right? A few experiences.
A few. A few. Yeah, for sure.
So I
So
would like to just offer a blessing for the podcast
absolutely.
and for the community, because our voices are going to be out there. I would just like to invite into our space the energy of the sun, the energy of the moon, the energies of the fire and the light, the waters and the earth, to invite, as we are speaking to our communities, to invite our well ancestors to walk with us. You can invite your ancestors as well to help you to listen, to help you to hear. And I just pray that I speak in a good way, and that I'm listening and hearing in a good way, and that my heart is open. And I do pray that the compassion comes through, even with all of the experiences that we're going to be talking about. So I just offer that up as a prayer and as a blessing to ourselves and to our community. Aho and Omateo.
Aho. Aho. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. We are so grateful that you're here, and we hope to be able to share with you lots of really interesting and cool and wonderful information. This is about all of us transforming before our very eyes. So thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time on Love and Lightning.